Good morning, afternoon or evening, and welcome to another 0AD Alpha 23 replay. This match is between myself and Adam66, I think is the name. Let me just check. Yeah, Adam66, and he is going to be playing as the Seleucids or Seleucids. I'm really not sure still how to pronounce that. I'll learn it one day. And this is my first example of playing as the Ptolemies. So with the Ptolemies, the big difference between them and the other, well, many of the other civilizations is their buildings are free, basically, or the majority of them are. That still doesn't excuse building a storehouse right next to these berries by mistake, which is, yeah, just ridiculously stupid. It's something I do quite a lot, actually. When you're just kind of clicking randomly, I seem to somehow not realise that that's of no value whatsoever. The positive thing of that is at least it hasn't used up any resources. The negative thing is, as with all the Ptolemy buildings, is they take absolutely ages to build. So those women have just been building something for absolutely no reason and actually could have been doing something useful with their time. So that's not particularly exciting. So one of the things that I found with playing against the Ptolemies is that when you get very good with them and get your routine in place, so you know how many people you need to put onto houses, how many people you need to get, collecting wood, how many barracks you need at what point, you can get a really good camel archer rush. The camel archers have a really long range, so 72 meters, and so basically, because they're so mobile and they've got such a long range, they can be absolutely beyond annoying to deal with on a defensive basis, because you're just spending your whole time basically trying to just move your troops around, because a small group of these, like 5 to 8, can just get a relatively long distance from your workers and just start shooting them, and they'll just gradually all be killed. Then you send people out to go and catch them, but they're relatively quick, so they run away, and they just turn around and shoot you again. It basically stops you from gathering any resources that aren't right next to your base. So if the map was anything like this map, where you can see there's quite a big distance, you'd pretty much be screwed. That said, I will do as my next video a rush that with the camels that someone used against me, that although I felt like I handled it relatively well, it pretty much killed off my chances of winning in the long term, just because you're always on the defensive. And the strange thing is, it's not even just that your army are constantly, you're trying to move them around. It's the mindset that it puts you in, so you feel that they're just around the corner, and because you might kill one or two, but you can rarely get near any of them. The fact that you know there's a group of camels, that if you were to go, for instance, there's some trees just over here, you go over there, and before you know it, those group of troops have been picked off by the camels. Plus there's the fact that you're also thinking, okay, there were 8 at this point, now he's built up his economy while I've not been able to do anything. Maybe he's now got 20 camels, so even if I send 20 skirmishers over there, they're not actually going to be able to fight the camels off, and they're all just going to die. So I've sent my camels off to kind of just scout the end of his base. Hopefully they'll do a bit more than just stand there, because it would be useful to know what's on the rest of the map. But let's have a look at my opponent and see what he's up to. So, just as I say that, he's sent his skirmisher out, and the skirmisher is going to die. It might take out one of the camels though first. Let me just see. No, it didn't. So I've refrained from making a camel rush, albeit as he has only women at this point. Had I done so, that would have been the end of the game. But I wasn't actually attempting, that wasn't the aim of this game. I was trying to sort of figure out a bit more about the build order and things. I wanted it to not just be me basically killing him off with camels instantly. But you can see that he's seen the camels and straight away has started producing from the barracks. So he's producing women one at a time from the town centre, but also these skirmishers, I believe, one at a time, as an effort to, if that were to happen again. So I've been producing houses, but you can see, look at the huge amount of houses that I've got, and yet my population capacity is still only at 60. I've stopped building them temporarily, but each house takes something insane, like, so 80 seconds for an individual person to build a house, whereas if we go to my opponent, we will see that a house takes 50. So, and bearing in mind that his houses also have a population of bonus of 10, I believe. Let's have a look. Yes, so his take just over half the time, but also double the population bonus. So you can see it's something that needs to be contended with. But the very best players do generally, either outlaw playing as Ptolemies, or they'll put some restrictions in place to try and even up the game, because they're so overpowerful that you just can't actually get near anyone that's very competent with the Ptolemies. So that's an unfortunate side effect. So we'll see here that I've realised that this storehouse is of no value whatsoever, and actually built a farmstead, and with no more food coming in from the berries, they're all gone. And because I looked around the map, well, I haven't looked in a huge amount, but I've noticed that early on the only things that I could get were rabbits, and if you're having to hunt rabbits, it's really not worth it. So didn't produce any more cavalry, and that's actually probably the reason, as much as wanting to try the other bits, I didn't produce a lot of cavalry archers. Built a storehouse here. I think that probably when I started building that was actually right at the beginning of the game. In fact, it was right at the beginning of the game. There's a load of trees here. By the time I've completed the storehouse, those trees are all gone, but it's still marginally closer than it is for than to walk to the town centre with those, although pretty shortly, I'm sure, there you go, as if by magic, a storehouse will appear here. So sometimes it's actually bizarre how I'll think, oh, I wish I would do something like that, and then at that point, actually, that's what happens in the game. So I've got 8 javeliniers. The other thing that's really interesting about Ptolemies is they have so many mercenaries that cost metal. So very early on, I decided to get these skirmishers. They don't require a lot of food, but they still do require a lot of wood, and the food has been replaced by metal. So because of that, I've put these pikemen onto metal very early on, and I'm producing these mercenary javeliniers as much as possible. So you can see now I'm approaching my population limit already. My opponent is rapidly catching up in terms of population, and the benefit from his side is that he's also, it will take him a fraction of the time to build a house that will offer him double the population. So he's not explored remotely outside of his map, and interestingly, he's got a complete demarcation between his soldiers and his female citizens. So the soldiers are all on one side while the female citizens are on the other side. Not potentially the wisest move, because if I were to attack from this angle, and there's absolutely no reason that or should be seen as any less likely than me attacking from this angle. Generally your early attacks come down the side. If I was to attempt a camel rush, these 6 women would be dead in no time. There's no house for them to jump into, although as there are only 6, one house would be sufficient to hold them. But that's the decision that he's made. So he's building some more houses here, which, as I say, I'm not a huge fan of the house location here. They could be over here would be a great location. Plus, if these 6 women were building houses rather than these 10 soldiers, they would actually, the soldiers would be collecting wood at a greater rate, and I don't think the women would build at a particularly slower rate. I'm not actually sure about that though. It's also getting an upgrade on, or the armory at blacksmith, which allows the upgrades. Not sure of the value of that at this early stage. Let's have a look at his resources. No, he's not got even, for the first range upgrade. You can see none of them are available. They're all well off in terms of food, and as not just they're well off in terms of food, but that food would be far better spent even if he did have that building more troops. So the gap now is, well, 58 to 68. I'll speed things up a little bit at this point, because the first sort of 10 minutes has passed by with sort of a discussion of the background, but it's time to look at some action shortly. So as you can see, starting to build houses again. These houses, I'm just going to look at how long actually each one takes. So I've got 7 women building houses, and each one is taking, it's still taking over 20 seconds, which is just insane, because you can produce, if we look, 5 troops, so 5 troops can be produced in 37 seconds. Obviously if I had producing the barracks and the town centre, you'd see that in 36 seconds I would have 4 troops. So I suppose I've got it just about right then. But still, once you've got, once you're producing from 2 or 3 areas, I'm going to need the women to be producing houses at an even faster rate. So you think with any other civilization, these 7 women would be collecting loads of either food or wood or something. So interestingly, or not very sillily, I've not gone for the upgrade yet. I'm now going for the upgrade on the farming, and I've got 5 farms, which is a pretty decent amount of farms. And these 4 spearmen out the back are doing a little bit of work. We're collecting a bit of stone because I've started to produce slingers as well, and those slingers are going on to stone. I'm producing those one at a time at this point. I'm also producing a blacksmith, and that's because of the large number of range units that I have. So these javelineers and the whatever these fellas are called, the slingers, will benefit from that. So it's worthwhile doing. I've built it at this point, even though I'm not going to use it immediately, because it counts as a building towards the towards progressing to phase 3. But also I've quite often forgotten to build it, and then by the time I've wanted to get the upgrades, because I've got the things, I've not actually thought about building it, and then I'm suddenly having to take troops away from the front line or whatever. So that's been basically the idea with that. A storehouse is going here, so we can move on, because this drop of trees is disappearing. These guys, there's only a handful of them out there, are taking their time over these trees, but the next big one is down there, and there's one over here, which I would imagine that at some point I'll be looking to exploit. And this camel guy is just sat in the middle, making sure that he doesn't try and come through the centre, and so far he hasn't, so that's good. Let's have a look at his development again. He's fallen 24 troops behind, and he's now starting to get upgrades. So that is, these are all actually, oh no, so he's getting either phase 2 or phase 2 upgrades, or phase 3. I don't know if he's going to go for the phase 3. Let's have a look. Stronger axe. I forget what stronger axe, which one that is. It's the second one. So yeah, sharp axe heads. It's the last one, which gives you a bit of a bonus. Okay, so now he's started to try and attack in the centre, and he's killed my camel, which I'm not best pleased about. So I saw that happen. So you see these guys have stopped taking on or gathering wood, and have started to they dropped all their wood off, so that if any of them died in combat they wouldn't lose that wood, whereas his troops didn't, and I'm just chasing those guys away. I'm happy that they're leaving now. That I don't feel there's any particular threat. He's reached the city phase. I haven't. I've still got to build 3 entities of the town class, but I'm getting a load of camel archers, and those camel archers will sit and just patrol the area. I also noticed that his boundary of his territory just expanded, so I would expect that at that point you'd start to see my troops, because I've got sufficient stone and metal now to do stuff, will go on a bit of a building spree of additional buildings to start both building up the army, but also getting my self ready to go to phase 3. So, or perhaps not. I'm actually interested to know whether I do, because in some games when there's been rushes against me, people haven't gone to phase 3. They've just decided to take advantage of the rush more early, and as I'm producing camel archers by, well, 5 at a time, I'm clearly very keen on those at the moment. We've got all the possible upgrades at this stage on the food. These guys are going to produce a market. I've got more houses coming so that I can enhance my population. I'm still 50 or so ahead, but obviously I don't know exactly what the situation is regarding population at this point. And once I have a critical mass, these will be able to either launch an attack, start harassing, or do whatever. So I'm getting the housing bonus, so the thing that should have been done a long time ago. Again, it's one of those things that happens when you're playing with a new civilization. You forget things, or you get so focused on something else that even something as basic, particularly when it's taking so long to build these houses, the fact that I haven't got one of the easiest bonuses that I could have got that costs so little seems like a massive oversight. So I think it's probably a market. Yeah, it is a market. We've seen that already. I now have 7 farms, so that's hopefully sufficient to keep us in a pretty strong position. And if we look now, once that market is built, I will only have one more. No, that's it. That will be the last one that I need to build, last entity. But I'm prioritising house building at this point, so these guys will presumably pop out to do that. Build that one as soon as possible. But I've now got 26 archers, and that's a pretty decent amount. So he's building a fortress here. That is something that these archers have fortunately noticed, which is really great timing. So the whole group of them, 26 out there, they've got far better range than these javeliniers. However, the javeliniers have a far stronger attack, so because I don't want to back off too far and allow him to, I want to know if he's pulling people in to carry on building this fortress. I've decided to keep the archers relatively close, so I could actually have backed them off completely. I didn't, but that will certainly sharpen my desire to move to phase 3, and having just got that, we should see the phase 3 click within seconds of it being possible to do so. What quite often happens is someone just goes back a little further and builds a fortress. That's exactly what he's done, so that's what I would have expected, and hence what I've decided to do here is start attacking his troops that are protecting that, and now we're going to try and stop this fortress going up as well. So I'm pulling in 31 slingers to support these. I'll move this back down to normal speed to support the camel archers, and they're not actually playing huge numbers of the opponent, or they're not fighting. There's fewer than 10 or so left, a dozen now, and I'm still going to be producing camel archers 5 to a batch as quickly as possible. So if we look at this from his perspective, he's down to a population of 65, which is nearly 100 behind, and he's not going to be able to build this fortress, so I can take that down. And I'm doing exactly that with arrows. And now one of the most useful things that you can do as an attacking thing is now take over people's barracks. So first thing I do is take over that barracks and garrison it. Actually, I don't think I have garrisoned it, which is very silly. Killed the women around here, and we're starting to go on a bit of a rampage. So noticing that I needed to garrison that, I went back and still didn't garrison it. Very strange. Unless... no, it's definitely not garrisoned. Okay, I finally sent... because I wanted to keep the camels away so they would be able to be more mobile, while the skirmishers could be the garrison. So then we're looking at this second barracks. Obviously, each time you garrison or you take over a barracks, it gives you a building in the opponent's territory, but the most useful part of it is actually that it takes away their capacity to reinforce. So I'm now just backing off with my 34 camels and my 2 little skirmishers that weren't involved in being garrisoned, but because there's 10 troops inside there, it's going to be virtually impossible for him to take those back. So he's only on 48 troops. He's producing javelins one at a time, and he started to produce, because he's got a fair amount of wood. 1, 2, are these all barracks? Yeah, 4 barracks, a little bit out of the way, with the hope that I won't see him building those. But throwing these guys at it one at a time is a complete waste of time. They'll just die. So this is another very useful building to capture, and this time I've had no choice but to garrison it with the camels. Obviously, if you've got a temple in your opponent's base, then you can actually not just be producing troops but also heal troops that are damaged. And now it's just a case of wandering around. He's pretty much, if we look at this, it's down to 52 from 120. He's still, I think, just pushing people out one at a time. Not particularly helpful. He's got 20 women garrisoned in there. He's actually stopped producing because he doesn't have any wood. So these barracks that he's finishing off are of no... Oh, okay, that's why he's producing them one at a time. He would be better off producing a batch. So I'm not sure exactly why he would be doing that. He's got some wood, but this is all but over at this stage. And yeah, I haven't even... Oh, have I just built a fortress? Yeah, I have built a fortress, and some war elephants are part of that fortress. But there's... Oh dear, I've moved a little bit too far there. If you look at the population, I've now got my slingers that were on wood, and the pikemen, everyone. Basically, I've got a large number of troops. These women never got beyond actually building that, what do you call it, the market. He's brought his women out to try and get some food, but that's of limited use. And he does have 19 javelineers here, who are going to be facing 19 partially damaged camels, so there is a chance that they could take some out, but again the range means that for a number of them, before they've even got close, he's already lost quite a few troops. That said, he does have far stronger troops, and they're actually picking off my camels, but they're now able to run back into what was his a temple, so they are able to go and get healed. His troops have got nowhere to be healed, and he decided to build a whatever you call that place, a storehouse, in order that he can store some wood that he's chopping in an attempt to produce some troops. So he's strangely only producing from one of the barracks, which is an odd choice, but that's his choice. And I've got some war elephants now. And these elephants will just come through, and those other troops that were doing absolutely nothing have been brought forward as well. He's only got these 15 javelineers. Has he got anyone else being produced? No one being produced. The women are out farming, and also getting some stone together, but he's got no chance of recovering in this game. And shortly after, he just decided to disconnect rather than actually do the decent thing and resign. But what are you going to do? That's just some people's way. It's strange actually that I can understand not wanting to lose rating points, but if your rating is at a level that it just doesn't reflect your ability, it doesn't actually help you in any way, because you can't find opponents of the right level. So either you're going to end up playing in two-player games, and it will be totally ridiculous because someone who's not very good will end up being put on a team as one of the better players, and that's just really unfair, particularly if you get lumbered with that. I've had that a few times where players have clearly got artificial ratings, and you divide up the teams, then you find they're completely unbalanced, and you just feel like you've wasted your time playing the game because it's not actually worth it. But anyway, he's gone at this stage. His town centre's gone thanks to the elephants. I don't think he's got much in the way of troops left. He's just got these handful of women here, although he's got one brave spearman chasing my pikemen. And who's going to win this battle? It's a humdinger. He seems to be doing, like, they're both managing to do virtually no damage to the other one. It's like the world's worst battle. And this guy is running after this woman, and these chaps here, she's going to end up running into them if she tries to do that. And the world's longest and slowest fight continues, and we're just going over, having to wander around, look for anyone else, but that's the end. So thank you very much for watching. As I say, it's not the world's greatest introduction to Ptolemies, although hopefully you've got a bit of an idea as to how they function, but there will be coming up on Wednesday an example of someone using Ptolemies with much more precision for a camel rush against me that works very well. So I'll showcase that as a build order. I actually forget the name of the guy that did it, but it was very nicely done, and yeah, well worth watching. So thank you again, and yeah, to all the Portuguese speakers, adeus.